So, you want to master music, huh? You want to become a great producer? You want to express yourself and show your talents and skills to the world? You want to create something new? You want to be innovative? Well, let me help you. Or as Fire Marshal Bill would say, let me show you something. Okay? So, we're going to go into our DAW, D-A-W, which stands for Digital Audio Workstation. Okay? I don't know why it's not called DOS. Maybe it's because workstation is a compound word. Therefore, it is one word. Therefore, we only abbreviate the first letter of said word. Anyways, we're going to get right into it. We're going to hit up the FL keys here. I put in a little plugin. Sounds beautiful, doesn't it? All right. Not really, but it's not bad. It's not bad for a little stock keys plugin. So here's what we got, okay? We're starting with ground zero, the basics, right? What the heck are these? My goodness. Let me turn up the volume for us, okay? Oh, let me maybe not do that. There we go. Cool. We have here 12 notes. What the heck? It's not 12 notes. It's like 81 specifically, I think. Or 88. And yeah, you're right, but really it's just a series of repeating notes. So we have our middle C, which is a C note on the middle of the keyboard, okay? And we're starting with the keyboard because it is the be-all, end-all instrument. It is like the S-tier instrument of instruments, okay? It's like one of the best because you can do a lot with it. It's not the best. That's kind of subjective, but in learning music theory, it's the best thing to learn music theory. Okay, so we have the keyboard here, and what this is basically a range of notes that we can hear within the audible frequency of human hearing abilities, for lack of a better phrase. But our middle one, we can hear a lot better than the other two I just played, the bottom and the top, right? So in between here, we have really a lot of opportunities to do some interesting stuff, okay? Now, I said 12 notes because we have these 12 notes: E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, B, A sharp, B, C. Okay, so we have these 12 notes. Bottom one is C, the top one is C, and there's like some white notes here. Yeah, there's like 6 white notes. And then there's like 7 white notes. And then there's 5 black notes, okay? What are the difference between those? The white notes are going to be our naturals, okay? So every time you see a white note, do you see how the line's up? It never says sharp, okay? These are sharps. They're also flats. In FL Studios, the digital audio workstation we're in right now, it only notates them as sharps, okay? And that's just, I kind of think, to just kind of simplify. So whenever we're looking at this, we have our 12 notes here, okay? Now, this is our canvas that we have to paint a musical picture with. These 12 notes. We will use them in a variation of ways and permutations to create a masterpiece, okay? Now, whenever we have these notes, we take some out, and when we take out specific notes, that will make our major scale, okay? Now, we have these notes, and this makes the C major scale, okay? It's all of the white notes all the way up to C again. From C to C, from C to shining C. Ugh. We have the C major scale, okay? So why is this the C major scale, you might ask? What makes it the C major scale? So I'm glad you asked that. So we have, when we build a scale, we have a variation of whole steps and half steps. So what's a whole step? What's a half step? Okay. Well, if we start on this higher C, and then we go up one half step, or as British people like to call it, one semitone, we end up with this very dissonant sort of sounding interval is what we call the space between two notes. Oh, okay, cool. That's also called a minor second, okay? So anywhere, it could be here. It could be from A sharp, this note, or B flat, to B. Same thing, semitone or half step, right? So also we have a whole step here. If we go up one more half step or semitone, we have what we call a whole step, or what British people like to call a whole tone, okay? So this, a variation of whole steps and half steps, is how we end up with our major scale, okay? So we're starting off on a C note down here. This is our major scale. We're starting off on a C note, and we go C to D to E, okay? So we have a whole step, then another whole step, then a half step. So, okay, that's the first, like, half of our scale, right? We got a whole step, we got another whole step, then we got a half step. And that lands us at F, which is a great note or chord. Then we have, after that, a whole step, then another whole step, then another whole step, then a half step again. Boing. Does that sound familiar to you? I hope so. If it doesn't, it's about to. So let's pull these out and play them in sequence, and we will get to see how it sounds. Wow. Amazing. Yeah. Sounds really good, right? Yeah, it does. So we use these notes to make, after we know these notes, we use these notes to make chords. So let's learn about chords. And before we learn about chords, I need to tell you a little something about the major scale. Okay? It has an evil twin brother. I teach music. This is what I tell all my students that are younger. It's fun and it's funny. So if we start on the A note and we do the same thing, use all the white notes all the way back up to A. Okay? This right here, this is our minor scale. This is our corresponding minor scale to C major. They're brothers. C major is the good brother and A minor is the evil twin brother. Okay? Because we use all the same notes that are in C major, we just start on A, and what do you know? It makes it sound like a minor scale. So let's hear how that sounds in sequence real quick. All right, let's hear it. Wow. So you hear how that was a little bit more sad, a little bit more different emotion basically than the happy good old C major scale. So we call this scale starting on the A, all the white notes going up to the next A, we call that, you have a couple different names for it, okay? We call it the A natural minor scale. Okay? All of these names, all of these notes have a scale associated with them, and we'll go into this later. But the name associated with the A minor scale is the Aeolian scale, if you want to get fancy. It's like the scientific name, like animals have scientific names, it's like the scientific theory name for the A minor scale is the Aeolian. And why is that? We'll get into that. So this, we could really assign a number 1 through 7 to all of these notes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the minor scale that we have within C minor, the natural minor scale that lies within there, the Aeolian mode, as we would call it, is the 6th degree of the scale. When I say degree, all I mean is when we go up in Fahrenheit temperature, right, we go up in degrees, the same thing. This is the 1st degree. This is degree number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on. So our minor scale is the 6th degree of the scale. So when we look at the minor scale, we can also call this, we can call it the relative minor to C major. Hey, what's A minor's relative major then? If you said C major, you were correct, absolutely correct. If you said anything other than C major, you were wrong. So, don't feel bad about it though. More opportunities in the future. So whenever we have our A minor scale, we can call that the relative minor. And we know, you can think about it like this. It's the evil twin brother. They're related. Relative minor, relative major. Okay? You can kind of remember it like that. Now, whenever we have this scale, we can call both the major and minor of each other. Okay? What comes up must come down. If you're going to be happy, you're probably going to be sad again at one point in your life, right? We got to have balance, so we have a major scale and we have a minor scale. Okay? Now, it's better to focus on the positive, so we usually focus on the major scale when we're doing this. Okay? So, and the minor scale just happens to fall into the mix. It's kind of like life. You don't expect to have bad things happen. They just do sometimes, and then we got to deal with it. So in the same way, we'll deal with this in the same way that we deal with the major scale. So that said, we have a name for both of these scales that can be used interchangeably, okay? And that is called the diatonic scale, okay? Now we have the diatonic scale can be, when we talk about the diatonic scale, we're referring to notes that are in this key, okay? If I'm talking about a C diatonic scale or an A minor diatonic scale or C major diatonic scale, it's this, right? C major would be this succession of notes, A minor would be starting here going up to the next A, right? And we've already know how that sounds, so we kind of have a basic idea. Let's keep trucking, let's keep going on with this. Let's talk about sharps and flats in keys, okay? What happens if I take this whole succession of notes and I move the whole thing down one semitone? Boom, okay? Wow, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B again. Well, this must sound weird because it's all sharpy and flatty. So, well, let's test that theory out. Let's move them all out and see. We'll see how they sound. Okay. Got it. What? We have the same exact pattern, tone, musical scale that we had before. How does that happen? Well, it's just the pattern. It's like anything. I could take this weird thing, and if I move this weird, like, pentachord, or whatever it would be called, it sounds the same weirdness no matter where you go. And it's the same thing that if you take just something that is actually really beautiful. Okay, I was talking about how the F chord is cool. Let's talk about that a little bit. If you take this and you play this, wow, cool, right? But then if we take that and we shift it, oh, nice, G sharp major 7. So when we take that, and we'll explain what all these chords mean later in a second, when we take the pattern and we realize, hey, I can play this pattern on a different note and I'll get the same result in a different key. You're starting to catch on, because that is how we really simplify music, is we learn the patterns. Instead of learning 12 different scales, okay, you just learn the pattern like we went through already: whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, or whole step, half step, 2 whole steps, a half step, 3 whole steps, half step. Okay, so when we learn that pattern, then we can know that we can just start on any note, play that pattern, and boom, we got a key. Okay, that is what we call a key as well. Notes that are in the diatonic scale. That is what is referred to as a key. Okay, now we have weird things that go on when we have our key, though. Let's start in C major again. Come on, man. Let's start in C major, and then let's continue on from there. And we'll kind of take this, and we won't go to B major because that is a really weird key. How about let's do this? Let's go to F. Let's go to, actually, G, because this is the perfect thing to use in our example, G. So we shifted it up to where the note is now starting on G. Wow, guys. Now we're really getting it. So our G note, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Okay, we're getting a little weird now. We have a sharp in there. Yeah, we do. But guess what? It's okay, because it sounds exactly like it did before, right? So our F sharp note here, okay, is going to be the first sharp that we encounter ever in music when we're going up and working on the mastery of instruments, at least. Maybe production, maybe not in production. But when we're working on instruments and we're working with music, F sharp is the first sharp that we encounter. So this is actually the first sharp in the circle of fifths. What is the circle of fifths, guy? Stop throwing these terms at me. I don't understand them. Well, guess what? You're about to understand. Okay, so just hold on for a second. All right? So let's go back down to C major. Why did I say the circle of fifths? So let's count up from C 5 times. 1, C 1. D 2, E 3, F is 4, G is the 5, the number 5, okay? So this is what the circle of fifths is, essentially. And it's so much easier to show when I can just go like this. G has 1 sharp in it. Well, let's count up from G again. Another 5. Okay, D. D is our next number 5 in the scale. So we're just going around in the circle here, doing some fifth circling. Okay, so how many? Okay, so now we have 2 sharps. Wow, okay, let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A. Okay, A. Now let's see what happens here. 1, 2, 3. We have 3 sharps now. Are you guys starting to see a pattern? Because I am. And so whenever we go to A, we can count up to E. E is the 5th of A. Let's go up to E. And we have now 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you see what's happening now? Now, the 5 of E is B. And I'm going to go back down to a lower B just because I don't want to be like going way up high with these, just in case we run out of space. So B has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow. And so this happens so on and so forth. Until we get to F sharp. The 5 of B is F sharp. We count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, not including the top F sharp. But what we're actually counting as the 5th sharp, to make the circle of fifths work and to come full circle, we count F. This is usually something that we don't do, but we count F as E sharp to make this idea work for us. So really what we have is we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and F is E sharp, so 6. Okay? And then we go up to the 5 of that. And then we have 1, 2, we're doing E sharp at F again, right? Because that was in the last one. F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, C. Guess what we're going to do with C? We're going to do B sharp. That's right. Now, why is E sharp and B sharp weird? Well, listen to this. We have B and C here, and this is what separates the 2 black notes from the 3 black notes. There's no black note or sharp or flat note between B and C and E and F. And so that's how in C everything lines up perfectly, because our 2 whole steps fall on B to C and E to F. Does that make sense? We talked about the major scale having 2 half steps in there, right? There were 5 whole steps that were dispersed, and then there were 3, and then there were 2 half steps, okay? So that's why it's a little weird to count those as like the sharps beforehand, because why would you call F E sharp when you have E and you have F? That's a great question. We do it to make the circle of fifths work. Now, why is it a circle of fifths? Because we were going in a circle. In the same way, if we start off at C, we can go the opposite way as well. This is called the circle of fourths. If we go backwards, guess what? If we go back the same amount of space that we went up, we'll end up on the 4 or the F. Okay. So that's just a basic explanation of the circle of fifths. Once we get to the top of the circle of fifths, then the flats start at the very top. Then the flats start going back down till we get to F. And then the circle of fifths starts over again, because the 5 of F is C. If you don't believe me, just look here and see. Okay? And then we go to C, and look at that. Back to G, and it starts all over again. Okay? That's what's called the circle of fifths. And so we have our sharp keys and our flat keys in corresponding difficulty, people like to say, because it's harder to play sharps and flats on instruments. Especially when you have an instrument that's tuned to C. So we're playing music, right? So we need to be able to play chords when we play music. And so here's going to be the lesson that helps us and brings us around back to the beginning. And this is the basics of music theory that we've covered. Okay. So we now have the C major scale, or the diatonic scale, and guess what? This is where all of our chords come from as well. It's so much simpler than we thought it was. So, whenever we have the scale, there's 2 ways that you can derive these notes, or these chords, from each other. The easiest way to do it is to start off on the chord that you want. All right, we want a C major chord. Okay? So take the first note from there. I'm going to skip a note in the diatonic or major scale. Then I'm going to hit up the next note. Okay? Then I'm going to skip a note, then hit up the next note. Okay? So play a note, skip a note, play a note, skip a note, play a note. Okay? Now we have Yay! I feel like I should have inserted that little kids thing there. Yay! So we have a C major chord. Cool. Let's do that same little thing for D. D. Play a note, skip a note. Huh? Skip a note. Play a note. Ooh. That's a minor chord, you can tell. Okay. Let's do it for, let's not do E minor. This is a minor chord as well. Okay. And let's do it for G. Oh man, we gotta go back to the beginning to get that D in there. And so this, guys, would be an inversion. But let's actually just do it up here. Cool. That's cool, right? And what I mean by inversion is this is what we call a triad, y'all. This is a triad. Tri, 3 notes. This is the most basic form of a chord. You could argue that this is the most basic form of a chord. Yay! It's just a 2-note harmony, but we can tell that's a major harmony, okay? But it's not really full until we get that number 5 up there. So it's not really a full chord, and there's been debates about that, but that is the most basic form of chord, is a triad, okay? Now it can sound, don't use this unless it sounds good, because this can sound a little cheesy whenever you're trying to make like good music. Because it's exactly self-explanatory why I wanted to use the yay little kids sound effect for this. So yeah, that's when we come into inversions. And that's what I was talking about. That G that we had with the D on the bottom, that is an inversion. I believe this is the first inversion. There's like a bunch of different ways that you can invert this chord, and they all have specific names for the type of inversion that it is. Let's not get into that because that's not basic. Works from all these. Okay. This is a C major chord. Ooh, yeah. That's a C major chord. Now, this is how we get a minor chord, okay? We have to have a minor third in between our C and our E flat, or D sharp. This is referred to as an E flat in music theory, just to let you guys know, because this is a C minor chord, and that falls within the key of the E flat major or C minor. Sounds pretty cool. I love that key, actually. I don't know, just something about where it sits on the keyboard, just perfect frequencies. I don't know. So whenever we're deriving a major chord, or I guess I should say, we can derive a minor chord from its major, okay? By dragging it down a half step. We're going to be minor, so we're going to drag it down a half step. Now, if we want to derive a major chord from its corresponding minor, we would call this its parallel major. We can drag it up, boom. And we have that major third. That's an interval. You remember what an interval is? I told you in the beginning that it was the space between 2 notes. If you don't remember that, I'm not sure why. I guess you weren't listening, but that's okay. Let's keep going. So the space between a major third is, wouldn't you know it, 3, major third, 3 semitones, okay? Or a step and a half. So the space in between our major third is 2 whole steps. That's really the space in between there. But going up from C, it's 4 half steps, right? So that's how we get a minor third. Is this starting to make sense to you? If it doesn't, let me know and we'll kind of go into more depth about this. But let's keep just trucking right along, you guys. these chords can be used to create a song, and you could boink, just put a good old little. I think I just played Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Gosh darn it, why did I do that? Awesome. C sounds good. Let's do that one. Let's start, and then let's do the Evil Twin Brother next. See how that might sound. This is about to be. Hit him with that minor chord. Now you can add and say I want to add the same. Say I want to add another C to make this chord sound a little bit more full. Yeah, let's do that. Do the same thing down here. Put an A down her. Ooh. You're probably being like, hey, that sounds like a song. Yeah, that's because songs are made up of these chords. I know, I just thought that. And I was like, well. So we have these chords. Guess what we can do? We can do a really even more cooler trick. It's awesome. And we can add another degree of the scale to make the chord more interesting. Just like how interesting I am. I don't think we could make a chord that interesting if you don't. So let's do this. How about we played a note, we skipped a note, we played a note, we skipped a note, we played a note, we skip a note, another note. Let's play another note after we skip another note. What does that sound like? Oh man. Remember how earlier I was like, oh, G sharp major 7. This is how we're going to learn about that right now. G sharp major 7. This is C major 7. Because we have a C major chord. Then we're playing the 7th degree of the scale on top of that C major scale. Or that C major chord. Okay? And that sounds again... That just sounds like an angel, but in case you want to hear it. And if I move this up and I create that chord that earlier I was talking about, I was like, oh man, F major, I like that chord, it's cool. Well, listen to this, guys. What if I make an F major, what if I made an F major 7? And we'll put the 7, we'll do an inverted E because I don't want the E to be too high. So I'll make the E kind of like in the middle right here, okay? Just to kind of keep the frequencies in the notes like in the same range so it doesn't sound weird. Oh, cool. Oh, awesome. I got my little MIDI controller down here. C major 7 to E major 7. You want to know what that sounds like? Imagine all the people. Well... Then if you try, imagine all the people. So that's yeah, kind of what that sounds like, right? Ugh, sorry that I just broke your earbuds. I hope you can still make music after this, guys. Just kidding. I'm great. So we were talking about chords, and this is how we derive more interesting chords. So just experiment with that, or go Google every single possible chord permutation you possibly can get your hands on. If you're that type of person, that's fine. Go do that. Or if you're the person that's just like, dude, let me just get my hands dirty. Let me just go in and see what it sounds like if I add a 2, or if I add a number 3. You can't really do that. You can later on up the scale, but we'll talk more about that later. So I think this is just like enough for today. I think I've given you guys enough. I've fulfilled my duties. Hopefully, I don't know, you let me know. And I can remake this, do some stuff different. I'll probably make another one in the future. Got any questions, let me know. It's your boy, Kilpatrick. I'm out. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And I'm out of here. Yeah. Oh, also subscribe to the channel if you want. If this helped you, like, why would you not want to help someone out who helped you? Like, That's how my mom told me the world worked, but I don't know. People did say she was crazy. Anyways, I'm out of here, you guys. Take it easy. Drop a like, leave a subscribe, or vice versa. Like, do whatever.